Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I hope everyone has had a lovely, healthy, happy, productive day. Right now, I am driving across these beautiful 50 United States, and I hope that everyone will pray for my safety, that I arrive at my destination in one piece. We have a very, very special guest for you guys tonight. It's none other than Corey from Corey's Digs. Corey does incredible digs, writes very in-depth articles, and she knows how to put the information together. She really connects the dots. So I hope that everyone here is going to enjoy this just as much as I did. We are going to be right back with Corey and our conversation, but first, sit back, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from my sponsor. Every day, we see warning signs that this country is inching closer and closer to, dare I say it, civil war. Violent protests by radical leftists, armed attacks on ICE facilities, police officers heckled and pelted while executing arrests, even elected members of Congress crashing political events, and the media justifies or ignores it. Unless we change course, the result is inevitable. And though civil war is far from guaranteed, we are in a cycle of violent weather that is unmistakable. Earthquakes, hurricanes, and more. Almost every American is at risk in some form. And that's why I prepare with My Patriot Supply. They've revolutionized preparedness with an industry-leading line of food storage, water filtration, and other products that you will need at some point. And right now, you can save 50% on a 2-week emergency food kit. These 2-week food kits include breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and they last up to 25 years in storage. Don't ignore the writing on the wall. Give yourself peace of mind and save 50% off at my special website, preparewithredpill78.com. That's preparewithredpill78.com. All right, thank you everyone for joining us. Today I am joined by Lynn from Corey's Digs. If you guys are not aware of Corey, you really need to make sure that you go and check her out on Twitter, give her a follow. Also, she releases incredibly detailed articles on her own website, corysdigs.com. Corey, thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. This is something we've been trying to do for a while, and we were just saying how timely it is that Epstein has passed away because our preferred topic was Jeffrey Epstein, and now it just, it makes it that much more interesting, I think.
Right, I agree. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of a week.
Yeah, it has, definitely. Well, Corey, you wrote 2 articles that we're going to be going over today. The first one is in relation to Epstein's ranch, and I think this is really interesting because we haven't gotten that much information about the ranch.
I know.
I believe until he passed away, I don't think they had even searched it.
No, I don't even know if they have yet. Have they?
Well, somebody had sent me some pictures which looked like they were taken by police, like leading up to and inside his front door. So I'm pretty certain that they just did. And I know that just earlier today, or maybe it was late yesterday, they finally searched his island, Little St. James. And I would imagine very soon they're going to be going through Greater St. James as well.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, everyone, I saw the drone footage. Mm-hmm. Where they were showing the FBI and NYPD, and apparently it's the child trafficking division of NYPD that's been working with the FBI, and that's why they're there at Little St. James as well. That's being reported. So
yeah, I had just heard that. That was actually something I just put in my video earlier today.
And it's hard because we all sit back and go, are these the good FBI or are these the bad FBI? Are these the good NYPD or the bad NYPD?
It's difficult to tell, I always have my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping that, that's the way that it is, that these are the good guys. Right. We've done a lot of, shedding, shall we say, gotten rid of a lot of bad apples. And I really hope that at this point, the people that they're allowing to go into these crime scenes are going to be the ones that are actually going to be doing the work and, really investigating rather than just, giving them a pass.
Right. That would be nice.
Yeah. But we'll have to wait and see. So tell us, what have you discovered about Epstein's ranch? I know that this is the place that he had big plans for you for his eugenics farm. He was going to be impregnating something like 20 women with his own seed, and he planned to create the perfect race of Epsteins.
I did hear about that. After I released my report.
Oh.
I was focusing on, so here's what got me on this. First off, I always go in the direction that other people aren't going, because I figure when you already have that many journalists covering the same topic, I want to get out information that isn't being covered. So there was just this brief mention of Zorro Ranch, and they talked about how the Kings, former AG Gary King and Governor Bruce King, who's now deceased, who had sold the ranch to Epstein back in '93. So they said, well, the Kings still have, adjacent parcels to his property. And I thought, well, that's all they're going to say about all this. So other than the fact that Epstein had given campaign funds to Gary King, but that was about it. So I decided to go into the property tax assessor and started looking up the parcel and searching all the parcels around it, and created a little bit of a diagram here in the report. Well, and the other thing I did before doing that is I wanted to try and trace the actual record, sale or something to show that this was purchased back in '93. But I came up empty on that. So, but what I did find was, and I have the images in my report here, and I always, of course, link everything to, that it was Zorro Ranch Trust that I show on the property in 2011. And then, of course, in 2013, it was then Cypress Inc., which we all now know is also Jeffrey Epstein's company that goes to the marina and address in St. Thomas. So I went into the property tax assessor's office and I started looking at the parcels. And it's not that they just have, a parcel or two. They have him completely insulated. Almost every property surrounding that ranch, and there's a lot, is owned by some King family member. And they've got like SLK Family LLC. They have Pine Canyon Ranch, Bill King and SLK Properties, Gary King. We even have Sam King in here. And then we have a couple BLM properties. But then I see to the north, we have, I want to say it's over 20,000 acres of what I call Hollywood land, because they've filmed, I believe, over 30 movies there, or at least segments of the movies. And back in 2001, I have so many names rolling around in my head. I want to say Tom Ford. Is that correct? Tom Ford. Yes, Tom Ford, fashion designer who's in Epstein's Black Book.
He's a director too, isn't he?
I don't know.
Oh, I believe he is.
Okay. So he had purchased that land. And there's actual trails. If you look from satellite, there's trails that go from Zorro Ranch and cut up through that land. So I thought that was a little interesting. We're surrounded by the Kings and we have Hollywood to the north. And so I start looking into a little bit more of the background of the Kings, and Gary King's wife, Yolanda, has quite the interesting background. She was in the Air Force for over 30 years. I'm trying to scroll down my novel long article here so I can, because I've already since done the St. Thomas Network and I have all these other dates and names in my head now. So she married King back in, is it 87? Around 87, I believe. And they were both in chemistry. Gary King himself actually has a PhD in organic chemistry, which I thought was interesting, in addition to his law degree. And so she worked 32 years in the U.S. Air Force, working in research and management, and she holds a patent in beam sensing techniques. She's done numerous publications and presentations on directed energy and space technologies. And
Wow.
I mean, you can go in and look. I have it in bullet points, but I mean, this woman has worked so she served as director of engineering and technical management at the Air Force Nuclear Weapons Center at Kirtland AFB. I mean, it goes on and on. She has a very, very extensive background in, defense and military. And I thought, gosh, with that background, and we're surrounding Epstein's property, and then you get into the King family, and I'm looking at Bruce King's background and Gary's mother, Alice Marie Martin King. And so I found a few interesting things there as well. Bruce King, he was in politics for years, even before becoming governor. And he also served on several boards. He was active in the Boy Scouts of America. And his wife, who passed away, I think just maybe a year or two before him, she has an extensive background advocating for children of New Mexico. So she served as the chair of the Juvenile Justice Council and worked with the Juvenile Justice Task Force to review the New Mexico Children's Code. She chaired the governor's task force on children and families when she was, first lady. She, the task force had created the first in the nation Children, Youth, and Families Department. She also she was on boards of numerous charitable foundations, and she was one of the board of directors for the New Mexico Boys Ranch, and then spearheaded an effort to establish the New Mexico Girls Ranch. So in 1992, she launched the New Mexico Children's Foundation, and that's this statewide. They give grants to smaller nonprofit children organizations. 165 of them. And according to their website, Gary King is the president of the board. So I just, in everything that we know, you look at this and you think, wow, they have his property completely insulated. Why would they sell off this ginormous parcel and keep all the other parcels surrounding it? And they're involved with, all this involvement with children and military and defense, and it's very suspicious to me. And Gary King, when he served as AG, he created he initiated the New Mexico Human Trafficking Task Force, but it was headed by the Office of the Attorney General, and they had a dedicated human trafficking unit with its own special investigations division. And we know that these people create these task forces and programs, agencies, organizations, you name it, as cover to keep in the know, to be able to control it. So I found all of that very, very suspicious. And then we also have, of course, former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson. I mentioned him in here, and how Epstein had given, he had contributed $50,000 to Bill Richardson, which is interesting because I have him in my St. Thomas Network report as well. And then the day I published the St. Thomas report, just a few hours later, all of a sudden we get all those documents released, over 2,000 pages with depositions, and sure as heck, Bill Richardson's listed in there.
Features prominently.
So there's definitely, and I gotta say, since I published this on New Mexico, there's a lot more information in here. I'm just kind of trying to highlight some stuff. I've gotten a lot of messages from people who live out there who have said that the King family is very corrupt, that there's interesting dynamics out there due to, and then actually they said that in the Santa Fe area or certain specific areas, it's blue, and there's this tug of war and control going on with the, you have the Native American lands, and then you've got the far left, but that out more in rural areas, it's more red. So I thought that was interesting, but pretty much everyone who has messaged me that lives in New Mexico says there's a ton of corruption there.
Well, you'd have to imagine anybody who's closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein, it just reeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I did a whole report on a few months back, are the Clintons, involved with child trafficking because of, and I had Jeffrey Epstein in there. And of course, Kevin Spacey and George Nader, who just a few months ago, he was arrested for child pornography. And I have a whole list, NXIVM, all the people that they're connected to that have been either indicted or are already serving time. So yeah, this thing has a lot of arms, sadly.
Well, it's no wonder that he's no longer on this earth. He stood to put a lot of powerful people away. Now, but hopefully the information that they're going to be gathering from the various raids on his various properties, I would imagine that's going to be yielding quite a bit of evidence.
Well, and they already have, aside from all the testimony and everything that we've seen released, they have 1 million pages of evidence that they're sifting through, which is why they pushed the trial back like 10 or 13 months to begin with. So I think they, and they did go in, which property was it that they went in and they found, like, I want to say names of girls in his place written down. I don't remember.
It was the New York penthouse, and it was in his safe. It was a stack of CDs, and it would say young girl's name and then famous individual's name or powerful person's name. Okay.
So I mean, I suspect that they've already got a lot, and hopefully they're getting more. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that they are, and I can only imagine that with the death of Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Barr appeared to be pretty upset the other day when he was delivering that that statement regarding the death of Jeffrey Epstein, I can't think that the DOJ is going to let this drop. I mean, this was going to be a landmark case,
right?
And it really was going to offer up the opportunity for a lot of people. To kind of get justice, where they were unable to get it before due to the fact that, Acosta was told to go easy on Epstein in the past.
Right.
So now, they've got, I'm sure that they have just loads of evidence for all of these people that are connected to him. And since they're going to be looking at his property, it's interesting that you mentioned that trails go directly over to these other people's properties. I would think that they're probably going to be looking in those directions too. Now, there was one thing I noticed looking through the article as you were talking. There's a large, what looks like maybe like is it a burn pit, or is it like a 31-foot circle in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, no one's been able to tell me what the heck that is. So right smack in the middle of his land. So he technically owns, it's 3 parcels, but they all make up, one giant one. And in the middle, there is a big chunk of land that is owned by New Mexico State. And there's just like that one dirt road that cuts through it. And on the corner of that dirt road is that big, giant disc in the ground that almost looks like it's hinged on the sides and it would swivel or something.
Yeah, like a corral or something.
No, because it's I'm trying to find the picture for that now. I'm scrolling through here. If you go into satellite and look at it and you pull up a bunch of different views, it's I don't know. I don't know what it is. No one's been able to tell me what that is. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
and then
strange.
there's other things going on the land too. So this is curious. I had thought, I did a little research and I sent some photos to some people and everything was kind of pointing to some form of fracking with all of the other images that I saw. But then I had some people coming in and saying, no, this is oh God, I don't know what they even said. They said it, well, there were some people that came in and said it's not fracking.
Looks like a retaining pond.
It's kind of crazy, but it's like the big rectangular one with the giant tarp.
Yeah.
That thing's absolutely huge. I should have done a measurement on that because it's probably a couple of football fields, but that that's like some sort of sediment or something. I don't know what that is. And
I've seen these previously. It's like they'll dig these holes in the ground, they'll line it with a tarp, and then they'll fill it with like contaminated water. And the water will evaporate, and then whatever is in the water will then, create this crust, and then, they can, throw it away or put it in a landfill or something like that.
That makes sense because there was an awesome person, I don't know their name, they came into my website and they left a comment, and it was awesome because they went in and had dug up some old newspaper clippings because they live out in that area, and they said they knew that when doing any type of, drilling or mining on your land, that a certain amount of information has to be published in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
So it was several different ones. I'm going to have to pull those out of the comments and post those so people can see them. But at any rate, it's on several different dates. It was a request for drilling down and setting up a new well, or extracting water to remove, which is like what you're talking about, where they're then removing what they're digging up and they're putting it off to evaporate. And I think I even remember reading the word evaporate in one of those. But then it was like, well, now we need to move it, 2 years later, now we need to move it over here. And now we're going to drill over here. And it all had to do with water. So I don't know how common something like that is, or were they really drilling down to do something else and they're saying that it's for this? I mean, I have no idea.
Well, I think it actually was with fracking that I saw this, because I know that they have just like massive amounts of fracking fluid that they use to they like drill the hole, they inject this fluid down into the earth, and then I believe they have to suck it back out. Because it creates that, the hydraulic fractures. That's what the fracking is, and then they've got to, dispose of it. But they can't just throw, this poison water anywhere. They have to let it evaporate. But right. I wonder if that could be done if they were looking to, drill, some underground tunnels here or something like that.
I know. Well, of course, that's where our mind's going to go.
Right.
So that was very interesting. And, the other thing is was it True News just did their footage where they went onto the property. And I don't know if you've seen that yet. I think they just published that yesterday.
No, I have not.
It's pretty cool. So very brave. Went onto the property all the way up to the mansion, up to the windows, and saw a motorhome there. And eventually, a dog was barking, so they left. But it was, I just lost my train of thought. There was a point to me bringing this up. Oh, but they did see, there was like an old, for one, some of the windows had bars on them, whereas others didn't. So that was kind of curious. Why
Definitely.
Would you, And, I was thinking about the labyrinth in back, I think, and that's why I brought this up, because when I had done the satellite view, and maybe the satellite images were super old and they're just misdated, but it was not 3-dimensional, and I have those photos in here. It almost looked like they used spray paint or something to do a mock of what would be there, but that would mean that the satellite images I'm looking at that said they're from 2018 were from, 1993 or 1994. So that doesn't really align either. But that was a pretty cool footage that they got on the property there. And someone was there. They saw the dishwasher open and then they heard a dog barking. So, they took off. My adrenaline would have just been, whoo.
Oh, yeah. So
I know why I brought that up, because they said that it's very, very isolated and that it sits up pretty high to where you would be able to see anyone coming from a great distance.
Oh,
it's out there a ways. And they said the nearest small little town was about 10 minutes away, I think. And that, you know, I think it's about 35 miles south of Santa Fe. So,
well, that would certainly be helpful if you were using this as a repository for trafficking people.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but
yeah. And I did find some other things that I'm going to be digging into further. But I wanted to kind of sew this one up and get it out there because it was starting to get ungodly long.
Okay.
So yeah. So, and while I was in the process of doing this, was getting some overlap because I was starting to, I was trying to locate this cypress ink. And so I was actually kind of working 2 digs simultaneously between Zorro Ranch and St. Thomas. So I finished this one and then I moved on to the St. Thomas one, and that one, holy cow, that took hours upon hours to get through that.
I believe it.
There were like 24 people and organizations with that one.
Now, just looking through these pictures here, you've got the pictures of Epstein's compound here. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the older satellite images, which you're right, it does look like it was just painted on the ground before they actually got the concrete for the walkway and then the hedges for the labyrinth. And right. Then below that Cerro Pelon, that is Tom Ford's property right there?
Yes.
Okay. And then you've got an actual, looks like a satellite image of that as well. And then the next photo down with this compound of buildings, is that Tom Ford's property, or is that more of the King's family property?
No, so that's on the whole Hollywood section over there. They've
okay.
Several movies, and that's actually the Silverado movie set.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think they might actually do tours too. I'm not positive. I know that at the northeast corner kind of the parcel, there's also a small airstrip, and so and I also have in here, let's see, where did I put it? I have a link to a website which I recommend people checking out. It's kind of interesting. They show some of the homes and large ranches on that land, you know, over 20,000 acres, for lease or for sale. And I mean, like the most high-end glamorous buildings you can imagine and landscape. And what was curious to me is they chose to do this. I mean, the whole thing is about, you know, the land in that parcel, in that area there. But then they do this overlap map of Manhattan, New York. And they took the parcel cutout from the Hollywood. I'm trying to remember the name. Was it Sarah Palin? Sarah
Yes.
Palin? Okay.
Sarah Palin.
So there you go. So they took the outline of that parcel and they overlaid it over Manhattan, New York. I don't know why. There's no explanation to it. I just find that extremely odd. I mean, we know almost, at least for me personally, almost, I'd say 80 to 90% of what I dig into, these people either have a home base or a company headquartered in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So that was strange.
Where on this website can I find the overlay with New York?
So it was... Are you on there right now?
I am, yep.
Okay. Can be viewed here. Okay, I'm clicking on there so I can... So let's see, we have the... Oh, it's actually the land. The tab called the land.
Okay.
And it says Cerro Pelon Ranch Boundary Overlay on Manhattan and Central Park, New York. I don't know why they did that. It doesn't make logical sense. Do you see it there?
Yes, I do.
Strange, huh?
Why would they do that?
There's no explanation. Everything else on this website is about this ranch, and all maps and photos have to do with this.
Maybe just to give, I mean, if these people are familiar with New York and Manhattan in particular, just to give them an idea of the
Of how
size of
large
the
it
land
is.
in comparison to Manhattan. Well,
That could be.
yeah, but still, it's weird. I mean, it's just it's assuming that anybody who would be looking at this would be, oh yes, I'm very familiar with Manhattan. I don't know anything about Manhattan myself, so it looks weird.
Uh, yeah, I
Very
thought it was
strange.
curious.
All right. Well, in particular, those connections that you're talking about with Gary King's wife, that is the stuff that I am really interested in.
Yeah.
Especially knowing, Epstein's own ties to intelligence and the types of things that can be done with directed energy and sending messages through microwave. And I know that I believe that I had read recently that Jeffrey Epstein, on all of his properties, he has some type of microwave emitter for communication.
Yeah, I actually found the communication tower that was set up running from St. Thomas to Little St. James. And that's in my St. Thomas report that I did.
Oh, well, that's a good segue. Let's go
But,
ahead and
but
jump over
yeah,
to it.
Yolanda, just real quick,
Yeah.
what's even more interesting is when we get into the St. Thomas one, you'll see there's another woman who's actually a Clinton appointee, also very tied in with military and defense. So it's not a coincidence. And, Yolanda, I mean, she was the head of the Space-Based Sensing and Satellite Protection Technologies at the Space Vehicles Directorate of the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory for 3 years. And she was like the chair for NATO Sensors and Electronics Technology Panel. She was the director of the International Office for the Air Force Office of Scientific Research in D.C., and she was responsible for management of all ballistic missile defense organization technology programs. And I mean, I could go on and on. It's her background's extensive. So
Fascinating.
yeah, I thought so.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's jump over to the St. Thomas article. Jeffrey Epstein's St. Thomas Network, Comms, and an Elite School.
So this one's going to be hard for me to nutshell.
That's fine.
I'm trying to think of the best place to start. Well, I'll start with the address. So I was trying to locate this Cypress Inc. and see what I could find out about it. And I'm looking at the address and I'm saying, okay, well, I can see this is going into the Red Hook area. I can see there's a marina here. I'm sure there's some tie-in, but I'm not seeing an exact address, and it just wasn't jiving. And of course, several of his businesses are going to this address. And then I come across this CPA who's also registered at that address. I thought, I wonder if this is his CPA or who this woman is. And that's how I found the microwave radio tower, which I'll come back to in a minute.
Okay.
Because she set that up for him.
That's Jean Brennan?
Jean Brennan Wybrocht, yes.
Okay.
I then find that, okay, so I start looking into this woman and she's on the school board of Antilles School. And I start looking at these other women and I'm like, wow, these people are connected in with the Clintons and Clinton Global Initiative. And then I see Pamela Burkowski, the Clinton appointee to, she was the Assistant Chief of Staff to Secretary of Defense, William S. Cohen.
Okay.
And then she was appointed to be to the former governor, John De Jong, if I'm saying that right, of the Virgin Islands, and she became his chief of staff. So she's on the board too. And I thought, wow, those some high profile positions. What is this school all about? So I start looking at the school and looking at these other people and said, okay, I've got a nest here. So I spent probably 150 hours on this because there's just so many people involved. And then in the midst of this, then who was it? Was it Bloomberg who dropped the story on American Yacht Harbor, I think, where Epstein had purchased 50% of it with Andrew Farkas, who owns IGY Marinas. So I don't know if you heard that one or not, but so basically what we have is at the northeast end of St. Thomas, there's, I think it's called Bessa Bay, and there is the American Yacht Harbor and Marina, and it's, I believe, 129 slips, some of them for super-sized yachts, which we know Wexner had. And so he had, I believe, someone had reported, one of the mainstream news had reported that he actually had some kind of office space leased within that building, because it's a little mini shopping strip center on the harbor there and the marina.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at it though, and basically what it is the address, the B3, is the slip and the dock. So that's why Google can't track the exact address.
Okay.
So, and he owns, Epstein owns 50% of this, and it was always kept very hush hush. So now if I take this and go back to, let's start with the tower. So I find this filing with the FCC of, I'm scrolling down here so I can make sure I'm given correct info. It's a microwave industrial business pool license. So what that means is it's a microwave radio transmission. It's 18.7 gigahertz, and it's his private communications. Now this was set up through VT&T LLC. Aren't they funny? So, and it goes to that same address, the 6100 Red Hook Quarter, B3, St. Thomas, and the attention is to Gene Brennan. Now, Gene is also listed in his black book. He has a section called Island, and he's got all of his, staff and connections listed under there. So she is listed in there, and so she is the go-to on this. And basically I have all the links going in so people can see the latitude and longitude. I have the photos of the tower. It's a ping going from, it's like a point-to-point communication. So on Staley, or I don't know if Staley's considered a town exactly or what that's considered, but it's at the south end of St. Thomas.
Okay.
There's a tower, and there are several, prominent telecommunications companies you and I and everyone would be familiar with that have, just like when you drive by and you have the big cell towers and everyone has their own dishes on there.
Right.
So a company out of Texas, and I have that PDF document, I found the actual survey. They had to run a survey to make sure there was no interference, and then they have to send this letter out to everyone else who's on the tower saying, during this time we're running this test, did you have any interference type thing? So they get this all passed. They get this licensed on October 17th, 2014. And it's good through 2024.
Okay.
And it points to Little St. James, and then that points back to, to this tower. So it's this private comms. And the thing is when you go on satellite at Little St. James, the latitude longitude puts you just a little bit west. I mean, it's probably maybe 20 feet from the tennis courts. So you have what's supposed to be a tower, and then you have the tennis courts, and then to the right of that, you have that sundial. I have the photos in here so you can see it, but there's nothing there. So I don't know if they camouflaged it, because if I were to think like him, which I never want to, I certainly wouldn't want a tower sticking up so people would know where to take out communications. So I would want to somehow camouflage this. What that entails, I don't know. If it can be moved, 50 or 100 feet over from where they got their initial license, where it's showing the latitude longitude, I wouldn't think that would disrupt the signal. So I don't know, but I thought that was all just kind of interesting.
That is pretty interesting.
Somewhat moot point at this point, but I thought it was interesting at the time I was digging it up, because I got to believe set something up like this when you're not a bigger telecommunications company and you want to just set up your own sort of private thing, that I just feel like that would require some bigger people in play to get that put through. But yeah, I don't know.
And now, is that the only place that this is passing information back and forth from the regular Virgin Islands all the way to Little St. James? Is there anything on Greater St. James as well?
I don't know as far as Greater St. James, but I did find an article back in 2004. Jeffrey Epstein and his, attorney at the time, Paul Hoffman, who coincidentally was one of the original 13 students of this Antilles school that I'm going to get into. He was working to get a $1.2 million underwater fiber optic cable project passed that was going to run from Red Hook in St. Thomas, which is where that marina is, to Little St. James. Now, I didn't take the time to trace all that down because at this point, I was focused on the tower and I wanted to move on to all these other people because this is just such a big web.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't know about Big St. James because, gosh, I just found out that he even owned that just a couple months ago.
Yeah. It's been a new revelation, I think.
Yeah. So,
well,
haven't even really looked into that yet.
So Cecile de Jong, why does that name sound familiar? I know that you said that one of those women was her husband's chief of staff, but I feel like I've heard their last name in conjunction with something else.
So you probably have. So she was the first lady to Governor John de Jong, and she was Jeffrey Epstein's office manager for his Southern Trust Company.
Oh, okay.
Which was a DSB, and I don't even know what DSB means. Do you know what that means? I tried looking it up, but I got so many offshoots of this. I think it has to do with like database type, but it's providing extensive DNA database and data mining.
Okay.
So curious with his background in biotech and transhumanism and all that.
Right.
DNA database and data mining doesn't sound so great. So she was the office manager of that. Now she is also on the board of Antilles School. And she's also, of course, listed in his black book as the contact under his island section. So then we have Pamela Burkowski, and her background's very extensive. Like I said, she was appointed by President Bill Clinton to serve as the Assistant Chief of Staff to Secretary of Defense William S. Cohen. And I actually did a screenshot in here from her About section of her LinkedIn, just because sometimes I think it's interesting to read it from their own words, their own perspective,
Right.
And she, God, I just have to take a breath for a minute. Let's see. So she's a Fulbright scholar. She, let me see if I can nutshell this. Her and her husband run this aerospace medical sleep consultants company, which I personally believe is front.
Yeah, that sounds like a niche business.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And perhaps it is, but given everything else I'm finding here, I find it incredibly, incredibly sketchy. So she, long story short, in addition to, being a Clinton appointee, she eventually moved on. She served under, as was it deputy chief to, or chief of staff to former governor of the Virgin Islands, John de Jong. And during that time, she abruptly resigned because there was an investigation going on in 2012 into legislators, and that went all the way up to the governor and telecommunications companies, where there was allegedly they were taking in $20 million, or was it 20? I believe $20 million in bribes. And but just there were a few different things going on. But in addition to that, De Jong was also misappropriating money to his own personal use. And they did eventually, years later, end up nailing him on that. But long story short, Eric Holder was the one holding the cards. And allegedly, there were arrest teams and sealed indictments in place, and he put the brakes on it. And I have that corruption scandal report in here with links and information on that. So, see, this is all very intertwined and complicated. So I'm trying not to jump too far all over the place.
Sure, I appreciate it.
It's I'm trying to give you a little background on her. And so during that time, she was her husband was starting this I forget what it's called, a crazy name, of a movie related company that they were going to have this theater that was in the Virgin Islands, basically. And she, under a holdings company of her own, was trying to get this filed through to get all the tax breaks that you get in the Virgin Islands. And what she was doing was, not on the up and up. She was ousted, so she abruptly resigned. Now she has since set up shop in, she has a company called Blue Sapphire Strategies, LLC. And that is registered to a mansion in Coral Gables, Florida, which her and her husband, they have that residence there, and then also a couple properties in St. Thomas. Now, she's on the board of Antilles School, and she also has a background in military defense. So I recommend people coming in and, I don't want to kill everyone with all these details and make it too confusing.
Right.
But she is also in 2000, it's worth at least mentioning this, she was listed on the term member program for the Council on Foreign Relations.
Oh, there we go.
The seminars and roundtables. And, other notables that are mentioned in that document that I have in here is, of course, David Rockefeller, Federal Reserve, Harvard, CNN, WAPO, and, the usual. So she was also on the board of the, and may still be, of the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands, which I'll eventually get to. But that, several of these women who are on the board of the Antilles School are also connected in with this Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands, which is very connected in to the Clinton Global Initiative. So it's like one big web these people are all, working within in these different organizations that cover quite an area, even some in other countries. So she is married to Adam Shapiro. They go by, their own separate last names. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, too, because I had my eyes on these two out of all of them. And then I later discover, these two are actually married. Now it makes even more sense. So this one, I almost want to do a whole separate dig into this, because he is, so this is the aerospace, medical sleep consultants. And they run this out of St. Thomas. And okay, so allegedly, they are serving the aviation and space industry with sleep disorders and fatigue issues. And they work with government, commercial, air traffic control, space flight, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, you name it. This guy has a background with the Coast Guard. He has several different pilot licenses. He has a transport license. There's different ones. I don't fully understand it, but I have the information in here. There's land and sea. He's a medical doctor, a ear, nose, and throat, a plastic surgeon. He did 14 years of college. He has like 5 different, so he has about 5 different clinics in the Virgin Islands, mostly St. Thomas, also St. Croix, that he somehow supposedly is director of, and does all of this, plus, operates out of one of the hospitals there. And it's not humanly possible. And
he's a bit of a polymath.
Yeah, it's just not humanly possible. But then on top of that, this guy has a medical license in California, the District of Columbia, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia.
Wow.
Why? He doesn't have any facilities in those. There is one in Florida, but the rest of them he does not have facilities in. Why does someone who's already so busy he couldn't possibly do all of this work in St. Thomas? And then I find he has a temporary license dated March 23rd, 2018 through November 30th, 2019 in Arkansas.
Huh.
Yeah. Why would he need that? I don't know. So according to the medical board, the Arkansas Medical Board, to get a temporary license, it has to be in an area that they have a shortage of. So I don't know, ear, nose, and throat, I doubt it. Plastic surgeon, I doubt it. I mean, maybe the whole sleep thing, if that's really what they're doing, but I don't know. This whole thing is rather sketchy. He also flew his Beechcraft turboprop to Haiti in 2010 to assist after the earthquake. There's several of these people connect to Haiti as well. So, I mean, I could do about 20 break-off reports from this one, realistically. I was trying to just give I was trying to show all the connections in this without going overly deep into each one, because it would be, it was already 34 pages long.
Wow.
So then we have the bundler, Marjorie Rowles Roberts. She was one of my favorite ones because she's a bragger on Facebook. And so she was making this really easy for me with, pictures and information and all. And she was a campaign bundler for Obama for the 2012 reelection. And she also works with the Clinton Global Initiative, so much so that they actually thanked her in a press release. And back in 2012, when this investigation was going on into the legislators and the governor of the Virgin Islands, she got a little bit of coverage there because she's a tax attorney, and her background is in offshore investments, offshore funds, investments, and taxation. So she's done a lot of the applications and documentation for big Ponzi schemers. And so we already know in the circles she runs in that, this is not good. And in fact, she was doing there was a fundraiser that she had scheduled, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz was supposed to be flying out there to do this with her. And when this whole scandal broke publicly, Wasserman, canceled her trip, of course. And
can't have the appearance of any impropriety, Debbie.
Right. Oh, goodness, I'm telling you. So this one, I mean, she's got photos with Bill Clinton and Obama, and then the new governor, and I can't even think of his name right now, who was just inaugurated this January. And lo and behold, who does she run into on the beach? Bill Richardson. And there's the photo of the two of them. I just love this woman, making my life easy right now. And she even says in there, and I've really, look who I ran into. I've gotten to know him quite well over the last few years. And I'm thinking, yeah, I bet you have. And her daughter went to Antilles School. She now is over at John Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, and she too likes to post photos with politicians and So we have her with Ayanna Presley and with Rep Plaskett. And, these are all from this year. And the inaugural ball for the new governor and lieutenant governor. And this was actually held, MCM Center, and she tagged Antilles School. And so these are what I call like the taskers. These are the people that do, they look like the mom next door or the accountant or the attorney that has children and they're perfectly normal family, when these people are setting up private comms. They're doing, now this particular woman does not connect directly to Epstein, but she connects, through Obama and this whole scandal that went on and Ponzi schemers and the Clinton Global Initiative. And she's on the board of Antilles School. And she's also on the board of the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands, which again, if you go in and pull that up on the Clinton Foundation website, you'll see how involved they are.
Okay.
So some of these are direct connections, some of these are one-hops, but they all intertwine. And all these women that I'm talking about are also all friends on Facebook. So this is a tight-knit group. It's not just, oh, this person serves on the board over there, or, they are a very tight-knit group. So then we have Erica Kellerhouse. She came from, I believe, was it New York? I believe she came from New York. She went to the Virgin Islands in 2003, and she trained under Marjorie Rawls Roberts, the woman I was just speaking about.
Okay.
And in 2008 launched Kellerhouse Ferguson Crobland. Well, coincidentally, she's listed as the secretary on Jeffrey Epstein's 2015 tax returns for his company called Gratitude America Ltd Foundation, which is, based out of St. Thomas. And she also states, on the tax returns that the books are in her care. So, and she serves on the Antilles School Board. Then we have Claire Starkey, and this is one that I'm going to be taking another look at, because she founded FinTrack Inc. back in 1990, which is the same year the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands was founded, coincidentally. FinTrack has worked with Catch-A-Fire, and sorry, I'm trying to think of like how to put this without getting too complicated. So they work with the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands, of course, and she has also served on that board. And they all work with the Clinton Global Initiative. And allegedly, what this company does is they're involved with agriculture. So you know how the Clintons say we're going out to Africa and Haiti and Jamaica and these different places, and we're helping all the small farmers to in agriculture, and we're getting federal grants on agriculture, and that's what they do. Okay. And their locations overlap the Clintons' locations. So there's a lot more in here on this, but some of the people that have worked for her company come straight from USAID. And one of them, Kimberly Flowers, who was FinTrack's communication director, was in Haiti right after the earthquake when she was working for USAID. So and there was another fellow in here too. And then we have a Mexa, Rivadeneira, I don't even know how to say it. Rivadeneira. I'm terrible at pronouncing things. I am.
It's no problem.
So Amexa Rivadeneira also served on the Antilles board, and she is the director of foundation accounts for the nonprofit Catch-A-Fire, who works with the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands and the Clinton Global Initiative. And prior to working for Catch-A-Fire, she served in the Senate office of Kirsten Gillibrand.
Oh.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention on Cecil DeJong, when she was office manager for his Southern Trust Company, he actually had donated to Antilles School. Okay. So it's all very, very intertwined.
Incestuous.
Now, yes, I'm telling you. There's a few people that I didn't, dig further into, but I just want to mention because we have a Juanita Young who has served on the Antilles board for a very long time. She goes way back. And a lot of these people who serve have children that have gone there, of course. Now, Angelina Daswani and Vivek Daswani are also, they've had 3 children going there. And Angelina served on the Antilles School Board while her husband served on the Community Foundation for the Virgin Islands back in 2010, working side by side with Pamela Burkowski, the Clinton appointee.
Okay.
So, and why is this school so significant to me? Well, for one, we've got all these people on the board that have direct ties to Epstein and the Clintons, and some circling around, a big 2012 corruption scandal. And the school itself, we've got 13 original students. And what's funny is if you start searching that, you're not going to find a whole lot. So I don't know why. And then you'll find a report where they say that the school was founded as, it's this private preparatory school that was launched in 1950 by the founding head, Deborah Finch. And she was this woman, allegedly from St. Croix, with a teaching degree from New York University, who wanted to establish this private school. But then I go on to find, oh, look at that. There's a co-founder too. So we've got Paul Hoffman, Epstein's attorney, as one of the original 13 students there. And it started out as this, it was on this property that had about 4 acres. And over time, they got in this new headmaster, started bringing in the bucks. They expanded to 27 acres. It's very, I guess it's not, it's outrageous to me. I suppose a millionaire it wouldn't be outrageous to, but it starts at toddlers and goes all the way up through grades 12, and then they prep them for college. So for a toddler, it's $10,900 a year.
Wow.
As the grades go up, it gets pricier. So grades 9 through 12 are $20,475 a year. So, if you're sending 3 kids there, you're out almost $62,000 a year,
That's
so you
incredible.
got to make coin. And the other founder that I found was, and I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right. So Michael Pkwy, who was a former politician there. The whole family was politicians. That's a whole separate report in itself. But his mother helped founded it back in, and she served on the board from 1953 to 1983. So their background, very extensive in politics in the Virgin Islands, holding high positions. Michael also, who's now deceased, ran a publishing house in St. Thomas and Rome. So I believe in searching through, so all the structures there, when you go in and you find as many photos as you can, they all have family names on them, So all the founders and the different donors over the years, like Gruber, Peter and Patricia Gruber Foundation, and who coincidentally donated to Governor Bill Richardson's campaign in 2007, and it's just all so intertwined, all of these people. So I think the school is a combination. I think there's probably big pay to play going on. There's probably fronts, covers, money laundering. I think it's a grooming school.
Yeah.
Groom them into the high political positions they want to move them into. And this And the reason this network's important, even though a lot of these names people have never heard of, is these are the people that are doing a lot of this grunt work for them. And they have this whole infrastructure. I mean, these people have worked together and known each other for a long time. It is a tight-knit group. So you take out the leader, great. Well, if you don't break apart the infrastructure, then you bring in another leader, these people can just keep the show going. So I really feel that this whole little network they have going there needs to be looked into. And I have received messages from people from St. Thomas that said, you're right on the mark. It's totally corrupt, and this, needs to be looked into further. And I get into the whole corruption case back in 2012. So that's in here too. And then I show the common threads with the people with Haiti, the Antilles School, the Community Foundation, and then I don't know if you're in the article or not, but I
am.
came across this photo, and it's killing me because I cannot trace it. I found it in an article where they were talking about the Virgin Islands. It was published in March 2019 about Virgin Islands History Month, and it's this old black and white photo of a man in like a little buggy behind a horse, and the structure behind him is the identical pattern of what's on Epstein's little temple on Little St. James there. Huh. The blue and white.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I found that the government house or legislator house in St. Thomas also has that same pattern. So there's something very symbolic, and I know a lot of people have talked about, the Egyptian ties and Horus and what was it? The bathhouse in
Turkey.
Okay, that's where it was.
The Phoenicians as well.
What's that?
There's connections with the temple and the way that it's built with the Phoenicians as well. They had a child sacrifice cult that was the underpinning of what they believed. And Baal worship.
Yeah, so I found this interesting because this is a really old photo, and it just made me wonder, I couldn't locate what street that's on though. So
that's fascinating. I'm not as surprised with this, keystone architecture with the arched doorway, because I think, pretty much like any stone building, that's very similar to what you're going to see, but specifically the black and white one. Just because with the alternating colors, that's
right.
So similar.
I know. I know.
Wow.
So I don't know how far back it goes. I don't know the history there. I know that when True News went to Zorro Ranch, they found a coat of arms on, I posted it. You should check it out.
Oh, I did. That's what I was talking about earlier. I just assumed that it was from the police. But yeah, what did you find about that coat of arms?
I just saw that at late last night. I saw that posted, or was that this morning? God, I don't even know. My days just all blur together.
Believe me, I feel you. Is that on your Twitter?
I retweeted it. It was about an hour-long segment on True News, and Patriot Soapbox had tweeted it out, and they combined my article with their video, which was cool of them.
Okay.
And so I was watching it, and they've got their footage when they went in and talked about it, and yeah, it's the video segment itself was on the property there was probably maybe 10 minutes, but yeah. But so they have that close up there of the coat of arms, and then they had the bars on the windows, and I think someone needs to get their ass into that ranch over there and see what the inside of that place looks like. And I don't know who was there in the motorhome, but they had a gas can there, and obviously there was a dog with them. And I would have found someone to run those plates.
Almost looks like there's two figures standing in that dormer on top.
Yeah, there's so they got a close up of that, and it was two older like statues. And I have no idea what they're of. They're people, but they're I don't know. They're strange looking, so I don't know what those are, and
Wow.
and I don't know what the coat of arms represents. But I'm sure some people that see this out there will be digging into it and making, finding some good stuff, I'm sure.
Wow. Well, Corey, I think you've probably got another 10 or 15 articles that you can get out of this material here.
I know.
I would really, really like to read some more extensive history on the Antilles School, because I feel like that's kind of like the linchpin between all these people.
Right.
I mean that's how they perpetuate this stuff, through the indoctrination. And what better way to do it than owning your own school where you can just farm these kids out?
Well, and I see, and I don't know that I don't get the impression that the schools used in a, child trafficking, pedophilia sort of way.
Oh no, I just meant for like the next generation of controllers.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that there are probably many of these schools out there, grooming schools. I mean, God, we already know it through colleges and universities, what they've been doing. But
Right.
I thought this one was interesting because it starts at, age toddler. And the government over there has seemed to see its share of corruption. So,
Well, it reminds me of the Nexium case with the rainbow schools that they had.
right, exactly.
Very strange. All right. Well, Corey, we've been talking for over an hour now, so I want to thank you so much for coming here and finally coming on the program. I really appreciate it, and you are welcome back anytime. I love your research. I love reading your articles, and it's a bit of a fangirl moment for me to listen to you here on my program.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. You're very welcome.
I just want to give a quick shout out to my buddies, Edge and the Speaker, because we do a weekly podcast together, and that comes out on Fridays. And we always try to cover either, Edge's digs or my reports or hot news topics. And so I wish I had more time to do more video summaries of my articles, but between the podcast and then doing interviews, I feel I try to cover as much as I can in those.
Yeah,
so
it's totally understandable. And yes, thank you for mentioning Edge and Speaker. I don't know if you know this, but I just did an interview with Speaker a couple weeks ago, just he and I, and that was released on HiveMind. And I have been trying to get them scheduled to come on this program for quite some time. So hopefully, once I get back from California, I'll be able to get them back on here as one of my first guests.
Excellent. Yeah, I did the red pill moments. I actually heard part of that, and then I got cut off and had to do something else. But I started listening to it.
It's no problem. No problem. It'll still be there when you go back.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you again, Corey. I really appreciate it, and we will talk to you very soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye. Well, guys, we have reached the end of our regularly scheduled broadcast. I hope that everyone enjoyed the interview with Corey and just as much as I did. Please do remember to check out corysdigs.com. Check out Corey's Digs on Twitter, and don't forget to go check out HiveMind if you have not already on YouTube. Like she said, they do a weekly podcast with Corey and Speaker and Edge, and it is some really good content that they put together. So please do go check them out and check out Corey and her sites as well. All right, guys, that is all for you today. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News for Saturday Night Livestream. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.